All right, yeah, let's just hop on in and chat about the application process. Okay, so we're going to take a look a little bit of like what you should be expecting, what you should be doing when you go through like the application timeline. So let's think of this as if you're wanting to start at a university next fall, like maybe you're interested in starting fall 2023. This is kind of the timeline you'll want to follow. So you want to start your search for universities a year before, at least a year before, really. So kind of take a look at everything like Lynn was talking about, like what kind of university am I looking for, right? And like start narrowing that down. If you're starting a little bit earlier, great. This is a really good time for you to kind of get an idea of like what's out there for you. Really, a year before is kind of where we're gonna really get into more the nitty-gritty of like what we need to do to start applying, getting ready to like get the application submitted. Something to think about is your test scores. So is the TOEFL, GRE, or the GMAT, is that required for you to submit? Because if it is, you want to make sure you're giving ample time for those documents to come in. So for the TOEFL, like your English proficiency score, I think that can take like a week-ish from when you take that test for it to be ready for you to submit it to us. The GRE, I think that's like 2 weeks. GRE, GMAT, it takes about 2 weeks on average for you to have your scores available to you to submit to us. So you want to make sure that you're giving ample time for you to first study for this exam, right? And then take the exam and then submit the scores to us and have us have enough time to process those documents so they're in your application and ready to get reviewed. So we've talked about test scores. Now let's look into what we need to think about when we're preparing for the actual application. So again, if you're looking to start in fall 2023, really the application cycle starts a year before, right? So August, September, that's when a lot of universities will open up their application cycle for you to be able to submit your application. So pay attention to deadlines. Deadlines are going to be so important for you. Different universities will have different application deadlines. They'll have different deadlines also. They'll have application deadlines, maybe they'll have scholarship deadlines. You want to make sure that you're meeting all the deadlines that you're needing to, just so you're not passing up any money or any admissions or like priority decision deadlines, that kind of stuff. So you want to make sure you have a good understanding of what you need to submit and when. So get it on that calendar, write that down, whatever you need to do, make sure you're not missing these deadlines. Because I have had students who come up to me, they're like, oh, I'm interested for the next cycle, and the deadline was last week. Sometimes universities can have little wiggle room to like accept an application late. But if it's a very popular program and they're just kind of at capacity, it can be like kind of too late, and they're like, they'll tell you apply for the next start date. So you don't want to be in that situation. Okay, now you're wanting to also narrow down your list of schools. So when you're looking at graduate schools, you're really niching down, right? You're getting very specific in what you're wanting to study. So you want to make sure the school that you're going to or the school you're applying to is really going to give you what you're wanting, especially with everything Lynn said in the previous slides. This is a two-way street, right? You're choosing the university and the university has to choose you. So be choosy. Take a look at what is the school offering. Like, do you look at the curriculum? Do you like the classes? A graduate program is what, 10-ish classes? If you don't like 3 of those classes, that's a third of your program. So that's a big deal. So make sure that the program is going to give you what you're looking for, going to get you to that job that you're wanting at the salary range that you're looking for as well. So be choosy. And then this is also a good time to start writing your statement of purpose and start refining it. Your first draft is not going to be your last draft, or even your second draft isn't going to be your last draft. Your statement of purpose is really one of the few places in your application where you can kind of show who you are outside of your numbers, outside of your GRE scores, outside your TOEFL, outside of your GPA. And I won't go too much into detail here because Chris will talk a little bit about this statement of purpose and letters of recommendation as well. But this is a good time for you to start working on them, especially, and also start contacting your recommenders. Think about who would be able to give you a strong recommendation, and reach out to them, ask them if they would be willing to give you a strong recommendation for your graduate programs, your graduate applications. And also have backups, because sometimes they say no. Sometimes they're like, I'm a little too busy, there's a lot going on in my life, or maybe they're like, I don't think I can give you a strong recommendation, you don't want one from me, ask someone else. That's okay. So have a few people on that list that you want to ask. Okay. And then around like October, February time, if you're looking again to start in fall 2023, so around October, February time, and this is when you're going to see a lot of your deadlines coming up. For NYU, just because I know at the top of my head, our priority deadline is December 1st. So essentially, if you're pretty interested in that program, we definitely say apply during the priority deadline, because sometimes, depending on the university and depending on how their application process works, if they have a certain amount of seats to fill, if the first group of students are very, very great candidates, and they fill a lot of seats, then it can actually become harder for you to get admitted if you wait a little longer. So if you're a strong student, definitely apply for that priority deadline. And then regular deadlines can go through all the way through February. Our regular deadline is February 15th. So this is very, very common with a lot of universities within the US to have like a timeline of deadlines from like October to February time. So just keep in mind what the deadlines are, make sure you're not missing them. And then something very important is also to make sure all of your materials are being received. So even if you submit your application and you ask for all these recommendation letters and you ask for your university to submit your transcripts and you submitted your application and on your side, everything's good to go. If we don't receive all your documents, your application is not complete and it's not getting reviewed. So you want to make sure we actually did receive it and it's processed. So double check the application system, double check that everything is checked off and you're good to go. And you can also email us if you have questions. Oh, and I see a little red writing here, rolling versus batch decision. So let's chat about that quickly. So rolling decision is essentially if a university kind of gives out admissions decision as the applications come in. So if you apply sooner, you may get an application decision sooner. Batch decisions is when a university will kind of wait until a deadline has passed for them before they review applications. So they give out decisions in batches essentially, and not all out, not as it comes essentially. All right, next slide. Okay, let's take a look at the application requirements. So again, these vary by institution and program, so check the website. So what's listed here is pretty standard application requirements, but again, certain programs can ask for certain things, like our integrated digital media program will ask for a portfolio. They want to see kind of like what kind of content you've created. So different programs will ask for different things. So be sure that you're looking at that program page. Also ask for application fee waivers. So a lot of times universities are willing to give out these application fee waivers. And if you get on their email list, sometimes they'll automatically send you one. If that's not the case, you can also reach out to us. So we're more than happy to just like say, yeah, hey, here's a waiver code. So be sure to ask for an application fee waiver, because these can be like $50 or $100. It can be pretty pricey, and it can add up, especially if you're applying to 5 or 6 schools. Yeah. Now let's take a look at the transcripts. So of course, transcripts are a requirement, a big requirement for all the universities. If it's not in English, make sure it's translated to English. You can double check the university's requirements depending, it can vary. And then also look at, is the university requiring official documents, or will they take unofficial documents? So if it's official documents that they're requiring, that means that if we're talking about transcripts, if your transcripts are required to be official, that means it has to come directly from your university's registrar's office. So either it can be mailed to us from your university's registrar's office. Maybe your university gives it to you in an envelope. If they give it to you in an envelope that's sealed, great, perfect. Take that envelope, put it in another envelope, mail it to us. Then it's official. If they are sending it through like email or something like that, that can be official as well if it's coming directly from the university's registrar's office, or like a third-party system if they're using that, like parchment. A lot of universities are now accepting unofficial documents for the admissions process. If that's the case for the universities you're applying to, great. Just make sure you're following their requirements. But even if they do take unofficial documents, that would mean they would still require it by the time you start at the university. They would still want to verify everything. And then for standardized tests, so the GRE, GMAT, see if it's a requirement. Some universities have started waiving them, some have not. At our university, some of our programs are waiving it, some of them have not just yet. So double check to see the program you're interested in to see if it's requiring it or not. So essentially, if you've heard about the GRE or GMAT, great, but essentially it's a standardized test for graduate admissions programs in the US. And then the English proficiency score. So this is also a big thing. It's required for a lot of universities, especially if you are going to be an international student. Sometimes it's waived. Sometimes if you are an international student, usually on like an F1 or a J1 visa, we will require the TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo's an English proficiency test. But sometimes it can be waived depending on the university. Like maybe if you did your undergraduate in the US, then they would allow you to, they would waive your TOEFL or IELTS score. So you want to just double check to see if your requirements would be waived or not. And then if you do have to take the TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo, a lot of these tests are available online. So see if the university you're applying to will take them from like an at-home test. We accept those online test scores, so it makes it a little bit easier for you to like submit these scores and take the scores. But if not, if you have to like be in person to take these tests, to make sure you're giving ample time to like arrive to the test location and giving yourself enough sleep and everything like that. And then again, the letters of recommendation and statement of purpose is also a big one. So make sure you're giving ample time for these to get completed and for your recommenders to like get these written and submitted. All right, next slide. Okay, application integrity. So these are some things to keep in mind to make sure that you're not ruining your chances to essentially apply and get admitted into your dream program. Application integrity is pretty important to all of our universities here today. So you want to make sure that you are completing your own application, and that your resume and your CV is accurate and it represents your experiences. Your writing and supplemental materials have to be your own. If there's any like test scores altered, if your test scores are altered, your transcripts are altered, anything like that, that's a very fast way for us to pull that application and just deny it right then, or like not even review it. So like these things do happen, and we will pull those very quickly, and it won't get reviewed, or just essentially a quick denial, a very fast denial. So make sure just to keep in mind that you are keeping your application has integrity, and none of these things listed here is anything that you're going to be doing. And fortunately enough, it's not a huge problem for us, but if we don't want to see that any more than we already do. So be sure to make sure everything that you're submitting is your own. All right.